International Relations Minister Naledi Pandor says the possible arrest of Russian President Vladimir Putin was not discussed during a meeting of BRICS ministers. BRICS Foreign Affairs and International Relations ministers are meeting in Cape Town over 2 days to discuss regional and global issues. The meeting also takes place in the run-up to the BRICS summit that is scheduled to be held in South Africa in August. The International Criminal Court has issued a warrant of arrest against Putin for the war in Ukraine. As a signatory to the Rome Statute, South Africa therefore has an obligation to act on that warrant of arrest. Our reporter Bulelani Phillip joining us now. He's been following that BRICS meeting. So Bulelani, the thing that everybody wants to know, the big elephant in the room, that wasn't even discussed.
Well, good afternoon to you, Francis, and to the viewers at home. Of course, it was the issue that each and every media outlet was out to actually get clarity on. But as the Foreign Affairs Minister, or rather the International Relations and Cooperations Minister, Dr. Naledi Pandor, says the matter was not up for discussion at this meeting of foreign ministers, and as well as the Foreign Minister of Russia, Mr. Sergei Lavrov, actually stayed away from that particular matter. In fact, he didn't even get questions relating to that from the Russian journalists, who were the only ones who were allowed to question him on that. So that matter is parked, but when we cornered Minister Naledi Pandor, she actually did say that this matter is still under discussion by the South African government, wherein they are still looking at the legal instruments of how to actually deal with this particular matter. You'd recall that the Deputy President, Paul Mashatile, is the person that has been tasked by the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, to actually look at the legalities around this particular issue of the arrest warrant that has been issued there for President Putin. And he has yet to complete that work. And of course, Dr. Naledi Pandor says it's the President that will actually give an indication of how will South Africa actually proceed in relation to that. But the clarity that we have sought as well is that the Gazette of the immunities and privilege of the attendees of the upcoming BRICS summit, as well as this meeting of foreign ministers, we've asked her how will it actually, deal with these issues that are pending. Would this immunity actually, immunize President Putin and other attendees from actually being arrested? And the answer to that question is that the immunity does actually not override any international tribunal body's decision, like an arrest warrant. But of course, I guess the final answer to that, Francis, is that we'll have it only once the work that is being done by Deputy President Paul Mashatile has been completed and announced by President Cyril Ramaphosa. Francis?
Then very quickly, what was discussed? We know that always the rebalance of power is in focus. And was the Ukraine war discussed?
Well, there's basically been 4 themes that have been under discussions over these 2 days, and the first one is the issue of institutional development of BRICS. There have been several countries that have shown interest in joining this group of BRICS countries. Of course, as things stand now, we know that at least we are told that the BRICS countries represent about 31.5% of all the global GDP, and as well represents about 40% of inhabitants in the globe. So there are countries that have actually expressed interest. There were about 13 of them that had taken part in the discussions today. And of course, the BRICS countries are also behind the scenes working out a criteria of who can be accepted into the BRICS countries, and the kind of format that the BRICS countries will actually take going forward. And that kind of work will be tabled in that BRICS summit in August. The second issue that has actually been also under serious discussion is the issue of the introduction as well as the strengthening of this new development bank by BRICS. And the question now is that this kind of development bank, they want to use it to actually pursue some of the developmental agendas that these countries are working towards, including fighting hunger, poverty as well as inequality, and ensuring that it actually funds infrastructure and development programs. The third one, which has also been one of the main topics of discussions, is the issue of how BRICS will play its role in terms of influencing and transforming global politics. They are saying that the developed countries have actually not honored their promises to the developed world and countries and emerging market economies, and in fact they are being accused of actually not coming forward and in fact shifting the blame to the developing countries. And the question now, or that is faced with the BRIC countries, how can they use their power and growing influence to actually shape this global politics? And they've agreed that they will be approaching and lobbying the G20 countries in terms of ensuring that there is inclusive multilateral institutions around the world. And the last one, the fourth one, is that there is preparations for this upcoming BRICS summit, and they are believing that the success of this meeting means that that upcoming summit that will be held in Johannesburg in August will also be successful. Francis.
Thank you for that comprehensive overview of what has been discussed by the BRICS foreign ministers.